reason, I don't. I will get connected again because I have some challenge here.
Okay.
Thanks. I have some challenge here. I don't know why I'm not able. I'm somehow don't see you now.
Okay, I will share my screen. And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another meetup of the AWS community group of AWS partners. My name is Nofar Asselman. I'm the VP of Business Development at Epsagon and also an AWS community hero. This session and this meetup today I'm very excited about. We have great speakers today. Usually we have partners that share their experience with AWS. And this session will be focused on AWS experts that will share their insights about how to partner with AWS. Before I introduce our amazing speakers for today, I want to take a moment just to discuss the community group and give you some more insights about what is going on in these virtual meetups. So the AWS Partners Community Group, that's a really unique group. I started it on 2019 when I started my own AWS Partners journey. I started to work with AWS and trying to see how I can scale this partnership. And as I move forward, I learned that there is so much that I do not know yet. And I decided to start and talk with some colleagues. And then these discussions with colleagues grew and scaled to a community. And this community, compared to other communities of AWS users group, for instance, is really partners focused. What I was looking for when I looked for more knowledge about the AWS partnership was meetups and communities around the business side and not the technical side. And when I saw different meetup groups, there were great community groups like the AWS user group, but it was more technical focus. So this meetup group is fully community-led. And really the main purpose of this group is to share experience within AWS partners. In the previous session, we had different AWS partners that shared their experience on their own AWS journey. And today's session, we will be talking to actual AWS leaders that are gonna share with us what would be best to do, for any startup that is looking to develop and create an AWS partnership. But we're gonna focus today on the co-sell aspect. There is no marketing aspects to these virtual meetups, and you're more than welcome to sign up to the community group and get notifications on future meetups. We meet around every 4 to 6 weeks, and you are more than happy to reach out to me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, in Nofar Asselman, and share with me topics that you would like us to discuss, or if you would like to share your own experience and being a speaker in one of the next meetups. So today's session, we will be focused on how to co-sell with AWS. And as I mentioned before, today you're not gonna hear from partners, you're gonna hear from AWS experts. We're gonna have Shiri that will talk about how to build a better together story with AWS. Then Jeff Grimes will talk about how to create a co-sell strategy. And then we'll have Nelson that will talk about the best practices in co-selling with AWS. So I hope that you will enjoy the session. In the end of each session, in the end of all the talks, we will have an open discussion in a panel format, and then we will conclude the session. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to hear your feedback. So without further ado, Shiri, you can take it from here.
Thank you so much, Nofar. Thank you for inviting us. Let me share my screen. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us from AWS. I will run through the basics of AWS methodology to address partners, ISV partners, and run through the methodology of how we build partnership with partners. And then we'll dive deep into the co-selling approach and better together story with in the rest of the session today. So our methodology is actually focusing on building the partnership, the journey, going through the journey with our partners, and building the right and providing the right mechanism in order to enable our partners to work with us with the right processes and mechanism and program to address our mutual partnerships. When we work with partners, we have three pillars, and this is the way we build every single partner from very early stages by the very later stages when working with different kind of partners in AWS. So we have the build area, we have the market, and then the sell. So in the beginning of the journey, we build our partnership with partners. The idea of the build is to ensure that we understand very well our partners. We understand the startup, we understand what is their addressable market, how they want to achieve their goals, in which countries, in which segments, and how they want to address the go-to-market, with which partners. And we really insist learning very well our partners and the startups in order to be able to address them and build them on top on our relevant programs. We have so many programs in APN, and for us, it's very important. This is exactly the role of ISV PDM, is to ensure that we are building our partners on the right programs, because not every program is relevant for each startup. And the idea is to ensure that we are taking them into the journey to build their capabilities. And then the second area is the market. The idea of all that is to ensure that we are building the relevant market and the right mechanism and processes in order to then be able to co-sell with our startups and ISVs in the best way we can. In the area of the market, we are building the market together, and we are addressing the field sales. This is very significant part in the process to ensure that we are working with the field within AWS as well as with the startup. In most cases, we have dedicated person to work with. This is very significant part. We need to have dedicated person, alliance manager to work with, and to have, of course, the alignment of the management within those startups. And the alignment of the field sales within the startups is significant part to ensure that we are all on the same page and addressing the same goals. And then together we build customer success. We address specific accounts, and we ensure that we are developing success and having great stories in order to build the customer references and the better together story. We will dive to this one in the session with Jeff and Nelson, but the idea of having the market already set and with very clear sales collaterals that will be able to address the rest of the market. This is very significant part in building and building the market with our ISVs before co-sell and using the right programs. So as said, we are building the stronger together story, and we are working having the execution path to the co-sell process. In a process of co-selling, we are working on specific program that we are having called ACE. And the ACE is exactly the platform that we are using to share opportunities with our partners, and of course, enable our partners to share opportunities with us. Those are two dimensions approach. And for us, it's very important to understand that when we work with partners, for us, it's very important to share opportunities with the startups, as well as being able that the startup will able to update us on every single opportunities that they have all over the world. This is our way to ensure that we are seeing the same opportunities and working on the opportunities together to achieve our mutual goals. So what AWS sellers are looking when we work with partners? This is very significant because this is actually the way that we're working with our sellers, and this is the way that we, as in the partner team, are able to align our field seller to work with our ISVs and startups. So first of all, customer obsession. Of course, this is our top leadership principle. For us, we always ask what is unique for our customer. what is the differentiation that the startup is actually providing, what is so important, what is the solution that we address, and what is the opportunity or the need that the customer need, in which segment that we are actually addressing and delivering a solution for. And then, of course, deep expertise and differentiate solution on AWS. We'll dive deep into that in Jeff and Nelson session. But again, differentiate and always differentiate, and learning very clearly what actually is the message, what is the message, and what is the better together story here that we are addressing together the customers. And of course, working on specific wins and references when we address the sellers without reference or wins or specific successful story that we are able to come to the field and explain what is the story, what was successful before and what could be successful with other sellers. This is very significant to have before co-selling with AWS and with our customers. And of course, using the ACE platform, sharing the opportunities, and of course, communicate early and often on the opportunity. In many cases, we work with startups or ISVs that explain that they do have opportunities with us and working on opportunities, but very important to understand that when we are not sharing those opportunities on ACE, then we are not able to track, we are not able to follow up, and we are not able to work with the startup on those opportunities. So sharing those opportunities is very, very important. The strategy, again, we'll dive deep to that in the rest of the session, and a physical presence in their territories. This is very significant as well, because I will give, for example, if a startup is looking to develop a practice and success stories within US market, for example, or in UK, but do not have any presence and don't have sellers and do not have specific alliance person that can work with us on those opportunities, then it's very, very challenging to promote business in those areas and regions. So we need the presence and we need the teams to work with. I will stop here. And we'll go now to, I believe, Jeff, right?
Yes, I think Jeff is next. And Shiri, thank you so much. I know, the things that you've talked about, are so important. I can share that, in Epsagon, we are submitting or sharing 100% of our AWS opportunities in the ACE platform. I think this is, the point that you talked about within sharing more and more opportunities. That's really significant to startups to get more attention from AWS sales teams. So thank you so much for the session. And Jeff, you go next.
Very cool. Thanks, everybody. So, hey, my name is Jeff Grimes. I manage our startup co-sell team here in the partner org at AWS. Been here about 2.5 years and have been focused on co-sell the entire time. I came from a startup, an early stage startup, ran sales there. So love working in the space and trying to help startups figure out how to establish relevance and new opportunities with the AWS field. So for today, I'm going to go through 3 basic steps that is kind of an aggregate learning over the last couple of years of what works, what doesn't work. And they're very simple in nature, but I think that any startup attempting co-sell really needs to take these to heart, make them their own. And I think that will set everybody up for a far more successful journey co-selling with AWS. So let's get right into it. So Shiri touched on the Better Together story. I'll add a couple points to that. It's super critical to think about the Better Together story in the context of how does your solution enhance the journey of an AWS customer, right? How do you make that journey better, easier, faster, more complete, whatever the thing is there. And so you really have to understand how to put that story together in the context of what an AWS customer is going through. And so I say that because a lot of times I'll see a startup with a really interesting marketing line on their website, but that usually isn't the complete Better Together story. So it's something to consider, and we'll go into some more detail on that. But step 1 for any startup is you really need to determine where to focus, right? And for me, the best practice is all about working backwards from your most successful customer, because after all, co-sell is done best when we're replicating success that you've already produced at another customer. Um, and that can be difficult for a lot of startups because we're all super ambitious and we've got great things that we want to do years down the road. But what can you do today and where can we replicate that success is really the mindset I think everybody should be in. So if you work back from your most successful customer, why did that customer succeed, right? What was it about the specific use case, the scenario, the challenges or the outcomes that the customer is looking for, and document that to understand, at a very granular level, what does that look like and why was our solution the best fit there? And then I think if you can answer that properly, move to what was the very specific outcome. If it's quantifiable, fantastic, let's quantify it. A lot of times that can be a little bit more challenging, but again, what was the outcome specific to an AWS customer's journey building with AWS, and get, again, very specific there. And then a big piece that comes up a lot, particularly with startups, is that outcome repeatable? From my personal experience working in a startup, we closed a number of large deals, but they were not repeatable scenarios, right? Large company wanting to do something interesting, closed a nice deal, but it was super unique to that one company. And back to really the whole purpose of co-sell is replicating success you've had with customers. I think just being honest about, can we repeat the outcome that we produced at customer A with customer B, C, and D, et cetera? And I think if you can go through those basic questions, document those in really clear, simple terms, then you will have a head start on most startups attempting co-sell because you've built a foundation on focus that will help you out as we go through the journey. Okay, so if we're clear on step one, step two is really about building a roadmap with your AWS partner manager. And many times I see startups, they want to go as fast as possible from day one, which is natural and totally to be expected, but that usually leads to really high activity but low results. And so I want everyone on this call to avoid that misstep. So you should think about taking inventory on where you're at today, right? Do you have one customer? Do you have hundreds of customers? Just taking an honest inventory on where you're at today, and then working with your partner manager to understand, okay, we're at this stage, we want to get to here. What are the very specific milestones that we want to establish to get to that point? Again, so be very clear about that process and the steps that we need to get there versus let's go make as much activity as possible and see what comes back. I think a more calculated approach will help you out there. And then based on that assessment, you can really define roles and responsibilities on the partner side and the AWS side to have a very clear path forward in your co-sell journey with AWS. And then if we're good with step one and step two, step three is absolutely critical. And I think it's something that a lot of partners overlook, right? And the main individual that's going to be making this successful or not is your guys' sellers, right? So it's absolutely worth your time to invest in the success of your sellers here. So based on the area that you established for focus, right, and the process that you've put together, create a simple to the point talk track that all AWS resources can digest. So whether that's an AWS seller, a solution architect, professional services individual, whoever it may be, are your sellers able to articulate the value of your solution in very clear, simple terms, yes or no, right? Once that's established, create the content around them, right? Give your sellers the ammo to be able to distribute the documented success that you guys have already had to the various AWS resources so they can share that with their customers and the various stakeholders that are all working on the journey with AWS. And then the final piece I'll leave you with here is please make sure to train your sellers and make sure to train them to be very specific. There's a lot of resources available on the AWS websites, the partner websites. I highly recommend you guys take a look at those and understand, just kind of the basics, and Nelson will go through some of that. But it's critical for your sellers to be ultra specific with the AWS account teams with their efforts, right? So if you're in a co-sell call with an AWS account team, do your sellers know what they can ask of AWS sellers, right? How the AWS team can help yours accelerate their sales cycle. So being super specific on these 3 steps, I think, will set you up for a successful co-sell journey here with AWS. So that's enough from me. Nelson is going to go into specifics and finish this thing up.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for the great insights. One of the things that I found very, very useful at Hexagon is to do monthly training to our own sellers, and also creating AWS co-sell playbook with templates of what to include when you're talking about an opportunity, how early or are advanced to set a meeting with the account executive in AWS, and also what you should share and what you can expect, what should you ask as well. So a lot of the times, our sellers were not aware of what is possible. So that's super, super important, because sometimes we, as a startup, we tend to be really focused on the AWS, and we neglect our own sellers. So I definitely relate to that.
100%.
Great.
Good point.
Thank you so much. Nelson, you're next.
Sorry about that. Mute. Sorry. So diving into some of the actual best practices when you're up and ready to start the co-selling process. The first step is to get very familiar with the ACE portal and the process around it. So once you're part of the APN, so our broader partner network, you will get access to sharing leads through the ACE portal, and leads can go both directions from Amazon and from the startup ISV. But getting very familiar with partner portals is important, because that's really where the co-selling process on a tactical basis gets started. You submit opportunities to the portal, and there's a secure sign-in dashboard that you go into and put in details on the customer, the contact, who you're talking to, where you are in the sales process, a little bit about what problem you're solving there, and getting all that kind of information clear and accurate and in the hands of the Amazon team is very helpful, because then we understand which parties on the Amazon side need to be ready to engage on those opportunities, and it helps us understand where you are, and it helps us figure out if we can help you as well. And on that topic of how we best help you, there's in this opportunity, having a clear, crisp ask, whether it's helping you transact through the marketplace, or helping you understand other parts of an organization. Those are the types of clear asks that are very helpful for the Amazon team to be aware of. And there are PDFs and videos and all sorts of training available inside the portal to help optimize this process. And once you submit the opportunity, then it goes through a quick approval process on the AWS side. And every now and then, an additional question will be asked for clarification before the opportunity is approved. Once it's approved, an automated email will loop in certain members of the AWS team, and then they'll help you get connected with the Amazon account team. I also pointed out volume here in step 1. Getting the right volume is also important, and that varies based on each startup that Amazon's working with. Volume is important because sooner or later down the road, getting enough, I would say, kind of critical mass or awareness of your solution is important. But there's also another reason in that the ISVs will learn from their interactions with AWS, and there's no cookie cutter way of working with Amazon, and every partner is going to need to kind of understand and absorb what is the right place to focus on, and then go from there. And to that focus topic, so step 2, Jeff and Sherry both talked a bit about this, about having focus. But early in the co-sell process, it's critical that the ISVs understand what the right sales play, what the right targets are, how you're winning, what types of customers you're winning with, and getting good traction, and then trying to kind of land and expand or replicate that process, rather than coming to Amazon saying, hey, we want to address every customer, end customer under the sun, and not having like a crisp, actionable path forward. The next step, and I've kind of touched on pieces of this, is that it's critical that the ISVs kind of absorb what they're learning from Amazon through submitting these opportunities and having talks with our account teams and joint end customer calls, and really absorbing what they're hearing, and being humble that certain types of accounts may not be a perfect fit yet, or there are certain programs internally at Amazon, whether it's just a number of different programs that we have to offer, whether it's co-marketing, webinars and different things that we do, figuring out which one of those at the right time is super important. And then it's also important to recognize that the tools and the programs at Amazon evolve over time as well. We're a growing organization. So taking that feedback and every now and then sort of taking a step back and hitting the reset button to figure out exactly what other offerings are out there that you should be aware of is very important too. So continually networking and getting exposure with Amazon is very important too. And that includes not just on the GTM side of things, but also on the kind of co-innovation things, staying front and center on the radar of some of our service areas is important too. And then lastly, that leads into the kind of staying collaborative piece. So once you're actually talking with an Amazon account team, it's important that you share deal updates, have check-in calls, and just keep the account teams appraised of where exactly you are and what we can do at those stages, and keeping your partner contact very aware of how this is going, and what you see working is important too, because then you can go build more content, more sales plays, and run more activities with the Amazon team based on what you've learned. So that's the bulk of the getting tactical piece of co-selling.
Thank you very much, Nelson. And I can also say that when we started to co-sell with AWS, we really created new collateral that only focused on AWS sellers. A little bit to what Shiri mentioned at the beginning, and Jeff as well, is it's not going to be the same positioning as on your own website or as you're going to customers. It's really about how you're completing the AWS specific service or capability, and how you are improving the experience of the customer. So it should be a different angle for that sales brief and solution brief. So I highly recommend on being as specific as possible. If you are helping to adopt S3, so be specific there and saying how you're going to do that. That is really, really helpful to have at least one solution brief that is solution or sales brief that is fully focused on AWS sellers and only meant to be shared with internally within AWS. So I'd love to have a discussions with all of you, and I have some questions here. I'd love to get your insights, and really the main purpose for this session is really to have more insights and AWS partners would be exposed for insights that are not necessarily written online. So anything that you can share, and really for the AWS partners, I can say that the purpose here is that you will understand what is still need to be uncovered, so you'll know what you don't know and see where you need to focus. And I'd like to ask the panel, At what stage do you recommend to start co-sell with AWS? I mean, is it specific stage based on the round, based on the amount of customers? How would you do that? And I know we have Shiri that is managing EMEA, and Nelson and Jeff that are focused on the US. So I'd love to hear your angles here.
Yeah, I guess I can start and then people can add to that if that works. So this question comes up a lot. It's a really good question. It's not super easy to answer because I think originally when we started, we were focused on funding rounds, right? Like if you're Series A versus B, C, D, what makes sense? And that's usually not super relevant because most startups, if they're Series A, they could look completely different, Series A to Series A. So I don't think that the funding is super relevant. A lot of times I look at it in the context of the startup that I came from. So I came from a startup where I was the first salesperson, 0 customers, Series A. And at that point, that'd probably be a pretty bad time to start co-selling because we had no idea what we were doing. And then after we got to about 50 customers, I wouldn't say we had product market fit because that's a hard term to define, but we started to see some trends on who are the most successful customers and specifically what customer segments were those, right? And so we had 5 or 10 customers that really started looking similar and they were all articulating similar benefits. And at that point, I think it would be appropriate to start the co-sell journey. Now, that being said, you obviously have to be a partner here and go through some of the motions and check the boxes on the AWS Partner Network side. But that's how I would look at it if I were a startup right now.
So if I may add here, I think when we approach in the go-to-market, we define which addressable market we would like to address, right? And with which go-to-market. So it's okay, it's definitely okay not to be sure about the go-to-market and work very closely with the ISV PDM to define better what is the go-to-market, which countries, which regions. So all this process of go-to-market is critical to set up before co-sell. Because if we are not ready yet with local team, let's take, for example, local teams that we would like to address in EMEA. EMEA is very big, right? We have so many countries, every country totally different culture, different focus, different relevant use cases, and different markets, right? If we are not having the relevant team within the field, local teams, and if we are not having the local alignment and very clear with the go-to-market strategy, and we don't have marketing teams that we can work with and promote opportunities with specific accounts, then it's very, very challenging because when we get to the ISV success manager, we actually would like to go into dive deep specific account. We would like to target specific segment or area, let's say enterprises or SMB or startup, and then it's much more into details, right? We need to come very ready for specific accounts and to have a clear go-to-market plan. So if we don't have the teams in place, if we don't have the go-to-market in place, then it's more challenging to work with co-sell with specific ISV success manager. And again, ISV PDM can help here. I don't expect startups to come ready with all that. We just need to understand better the roles of responsibility within AWS. I truly recommend to work closely with the ISV PDM and to get the guidance there to ensure that we have clear plan. And as much as the partner and the ISV PDM will be able to address specific regions and say, okay, guys, those are the segment. This is the segment we would like to address for the first stage, a specific country with specific segment, let's say enterprise, and with even specific account list, that will be perfect, right? Because then you're very focused and we can work. You can really work on co-sell approach, and that will be the perfect actually stage.
Yeah, I would just briefly add in that as a reminder that it's there's a process of building the partnership with AWS in the first place, right? You go register on the partner APN website, and there's a number of activities and things that you do beforehand, like getting listed on our marketplace and those sorts of things that will give you plenty of time to start talking to either the actual account manager that covers you, the PDM or PDRs that cover you as well, and you can start planning out exactly what you want to do. You'll have plenty of time to think through that and access to AWS resources. So there's plenty of time to start digging into it, but the first step is to get into the APN organization, become a registered partner before you really start digging into the co-sell, because true co-sell is really a premium service offered by AWS, and you need to be at the right stage, right fit, and have all these other things buttoned up before you try and lean in on the co-sell element.
That's great. I can share that in Epsagon, we joined the APN, the AWS Partner Network, about a year before we started to, scaling our co-sell motion. We did have some co-sell success, but repeatable motion was only about a year later. So if you are now contemplating on when is the right time, I'd say if you're looking to co-sell with AWS in 2022, you should start working on the partnership basically right now. All the basics, I call it, like the marketplace listing and all the programs that she talked about, already start to register some opportunities on ACE, being a competency partner, and so on. That's great. So if I'm a startup and I want to, I say, okay, I do know what is the segment that I would like to focus on. I have enough customers that I've learned what is working and what's not, and who's my ideal, customer persona. What would be the first thing that I can do, as of today?
Nelson, you want to take that one? Sorry, so is this a partner that's already in the APN and covered by a PDM and everything, or is this a company that just approached Amazon that happens to be interested in the co-sell element?
So let's say there is a partner that is an advanced partner already in the ISV Accelerate, in the marketplace, and they're working probably with the PDM already.
Yep.
And of course, the PDM is great, but you also need to do a lot of homework yourself in order to help the PDM help you, right? So what would be the best, first steps that the startup can do, right after this session, for example?
Sure. Yeah, I would take a look at so if there's a specific deal that you want support on, I would, collect your details on that. Or if there's a specific set of, you want to start building the plan with the PDM, then I would start looking at your install base, like Jeff mentioned earlier in his prior experience, where, hone in on the product market fit, look at your customer base, start drawing some inferences there as to, okay, you're doing incredibly well with one segment of companies or one industry. We're doing really well in retail, large enterprise. Here's where we win, why we win, and how we win. Dive into all those details, figure out and make sure that you can very clearly articulate to the PDM, because he or her is then becoming your advocate internally at Amazon as well. And given the number given the breadth of the ecosystem, they're going to need to help articulate exactly why you are the right fit, or why you're special, in order to go generate the interest internally at Amazon. So honing in on those sorts of things, packaging that up, having 2-page collateral type of content to educate people internally is useful. The other critical thing that I think at any organization is that the end customer references speak for themselves, and there becomes a lot less questions when you have an end customer quote or reference that says, we struggled with, or we needed help with, and then we found this partner or this ISV, and then now we're able to do XYZ, and now everything's amazing, and we're running. We don't have to worry about that problem, or whatever was solved. But having the customer references are huge too.
Got it. Thank you. And in terms of, yeah, sure.
No, I can add here again, if you would like to address specific countries, then sometimes the quick win, it's the right way just to start, right? Because the early stages, I think that what we really need to put on our top of our head is to earn the trust of the sellers and our customers. And sometimes the way to earn the trust is that even to start actually from where you're already very strong at. If you already have specific opportunities already and even wins in specific market, then update them on the ACE and work and ask to work with the local ISMs or with the local field, and having those quick wins that enable to create this right direction that will, because when we have those wins together, it's more easy to understand the value, to understand the differentiation, and then to duplicate. So if you already have position in one of the markets, then make sure you share the opportunities and ask to work on those specific that you guys already created with our teams, build this trust, and then duplicate again and again.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I can say to avoid from, don't target a brand new segment with AWS. I mean, don't try to get into a new segment. Let's say enterprise. Every single startup would like to get into the enterprise. But if you don't have enterprise customers, AWS would not be the partner that will help you to generate the initial success. You have to come with initial success and replicate this success together with AWS. It's really a scale partnership, and it's not something they will not introduce. I would not expect anyone from AWS to come to a brand new segment and introducing it. That's not the purpose of the partnership. So I know that everyone wants to win enterprise over, but if you are great with startups, focus on startup segments. There are plenty of companies there and market share and sellers that you can focus on. And that leads me actually to my final question is about, there are a lot of AWS resources that are available for startups like PDMs and the AWS portal, ISMs and so on. But what are the resources that you think that is needed from the startup side in order to be successful with AWS? Shiri, I see you nodding. So if you want to take,
I think this is the most challenging one, because that will make the break or make in the very early stages. You can see examples of partners that we have developed, and actually you guys are a great example for that. Hexagon, you manage to bring the right resources on time, and sometimes it takes so long. It can take more than a year until we get the right resources. We need the 3 pillars here. First of all, we need focal point to work with. All those startups that start with the BD of marketing, and it's fine, or the CEO leading that, or head of sales, it's fine. But every startup needs to understand partnership. It's a professional role. It's a whole new role, and only dealing with our programs and ACE and competencies and service delivery, only this process can take really full-time job in a good aspect, right? So we need focal point. If you want to make it fast, make sure that you have focal point. Now, we can see situations that we do have focal point, but we don't have the management alignment. And then this is another area. You need to have your top management with you, all the stakeholders. Stakeholders need to get into agreement that what they are putting on their top priority is this partnership with AWS, and choose one. It's okay to partner with many different partners, but it takes so many resources. Better to choose your big bet. And if AWS is your big bet, then go all the way, and make sure that you have the right stakeholders. And then after you build this partnership, make sure that you have the field, as Nelson presented before, because by the end of the day, the co-sell happens with the account managers, our account managers and you guys account managers. So if we don't have their trained, then it's really, really challenging. So all the training and education session that we are running with the sellers, it's so significant. And if it's okay to say it here as well, goals, even goals, we see very good outcome when the goals are with AWS and on those specific solutions that we build. If we have the right goals and we have the right direction from the management and the alliance, we'll see the outcomes. If all this is not there, it just takes much longer.
Definitely agree with that. And for the leadership, I wouldn't one thing that I can say, that don't expect to see results in the first month or two. It's not going to happen. It's really a long-term commitment that will be fruitful maybe a year after. but I think it's very significant. And I think the co-sell partnership can help in so many ways. Of course, it can help with existing opportunities and get more insights about different accounts and get deal support. But also eventually, if you're doing that successfully and you have a value that you're adding to AWS, you can also get referrals from AWS, brand new business that is coming through AWS. And that's really the holy grail, I think, that every startup is looking to achieve eventually. But it's a long process, but the impact is significant as well.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much for the insights today. Again, we've learned about how to start a co-sell strategy, how to create a better together story. I hope that you found this session useful. You're more than happy to reach out to any of the speakers, I hope. If you have any questions or need any guidance on LinkedIn, you can reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or if you have any topic that you'd like more focus on in one of the next meetups, I'm more than happy to hear that. And have a great day. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for a great speakers. I really appreciate the time. It's definitely the customer obsession, or in this case, the partner obsession, is great to see. And I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Nofar. Thank you, everyone.
See you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.